This month, the world's best go head-to-head. 4 wild and emotional weeks in the Volvo Ocean Race.
Any reason we found you, you should put your arm in the air, okay?
And a controversial result down under. But first, the story of the ultimate challenge. How fast can one person sail around the world? Last year, we thought we knew after Thomas Coville smashed the existing record to complete the 28,000-mile trip in 49 days. This was his third attempt since 2008, and this time he'd done it, taking 8 days off the previous best. Heralded as the performance of the decade, many believed that the new record would stand for a long time. But 12 months later, and on his first attempt, François Gabart changed that and raised the bar even higher, slicing more than 6 days off Coville's record. His near-perfect circumnavigation had made it look easy. Almost 50 years after the first solo non-stop circumnavigation by Sir Robin Knox-Johnston, Gabart's time is 7 times shorter.
François didn't smash it, he destroyed it. And I thought Coville's record was brilliant. And then François Gabart just came along. I mean, okay, you need a bit of luck, because he's the first to admit. But even so, it was phenomenal effort.
In winning the inaugural race, Knox-Johnston was the first, the fastest, and to this day, the most famous circumnavigator in the world. 16 years later, his time had been more than halved to 150 days by Dodge Morgan. Developments in yacht design for the Vendée Globe race, the modern version of the Golden Globe, triggered a new generation of globe-trotting race yachts. And times tumbled once again as Michel Desjoyeux broke 100 days. The slope of the curve showed signs of levelling out. Were solo sailors reaching the limit? How much further was there to go?
It doesn't end ever, does it? We'll always be working out ways of improving speeds.
In 2004, Francis Joyon bucked the odds to prove that fast, lightweight multi-hulls were the future. And time started to tumble once again. Then the multi-hulls got bigger, challenging popular opinion on what was humanly possible. The graph dipped once again with Coville's impressive record. Sailing alone in his 30-metre trimaran, Gabart's time was just 1 day, 17 hours behind that of a full crew. Over time, the plots between fully crewed and solo circumnavigations have been converging. So how far can the line go? Gabart believes he has more to give. Meanwhile, Diane Guichard's crew, aboard the 40-metre trimaran Spindrift, set out on their attempt at the world record. But disaster struck when the try was dismasted on the first day. Their bid was over. But not everyone that's setting out for a solo circumnavigation this season is looking to break a record. 50 years after Sir Robin's historic trip, the Golden Globe race will see 26 sailors set out in a fleet of small production-built boats no longer than 11 metres. With no modern electronics aboard, the fleet aims to recreate the spirit of the 1960s.
I think it's a great concept. It's going back to adventure sailing. It's the opposite to Gabart, really. But now we're going back to the ordinary person can actually go out and achieve something pretty fantastic in sailing.
One of the most recent entries into the race, and the only female skipper, is Susie Goodhall.
We set off from Falmouth down to France, and then 1st of July from Les Sables d'Olonne, we raced around the world in traditional boats, traditional means of navigation, as close to the original race as possible. When I heard about it, I thought, yep, that's what I'm going to do. Because of the length of time of the race, the hardest thing is probably being alone with no one to talk to and just me.
Yet while the spirit of the race is the same, there is one key difference.
Well, the difference between what I did 50 years ago and what they're doing is at least they know it's possible.
So, as we contemplate how much further there is to go as the line heads south, there's another key question. Where will the modern-day Golden Globe Classics end up on the chart?
My guess is that they'll probably do it in 30, 40 days less than I did. But then, I might be proved wrong.
Nassau, the Bahamas, where 25 of the world's top sailors focused on the Star Sailors League finals. Each had their eye on the crown, and each was keen and able to take it. Race after race, the fleet hit the start line as one. Taking a snapshot of any one of their starts revealed why. Among the 25-strong fleet, there were 25 Olympic medals on the start line, 7 of them gold. The list of world and European champions and offshore record holders and victors ran like the credits of a Hollywood movie. The message was clear. This was an impressive assembly of sailing rock stars and legends, doing battle in a fleet of identical boats.
Yesterday they were all talking about their medals. I reckon maybe we can have 20 kilos of medals, gold, silver and bronze here. I never had any. That's fine.
Each team had one goal in mind, to be the champion of champions and take their share of a $200,000 prize purse. Making it this far had been tough, but those that had included familiar names from the Star-class fleet. Freddie Loof, Mark Mendelblatt, Paul Kayard. All have long and impressive track records in the Star.
If you see who is up there, it's always the old Star sailors. I mean, Mateusz, he's sailing over 10 years. Robert Scheid, I think since 2003. Xavier Rocha, over 20 years of Star sailing experience. And then Paul...
Nearly 10 days.
There were those whose accomplishments in the sport have become folklore. From Robert Scheid's 5 Olympic medals and 12 World Championship titles, to offshore sailing supremos such as Loic Perron and Frank Camas. Some were joining the fleet for the first time. NACRA 17 World Champion Ben Saxton, Germany's top Olympic sailor Philipp Bull, and 2-time Moth World Champion Paul Goodison. The newcomers were taking on the veterans.
The young guys, they've got no fear, and they do this day in, day out in their own boats, and it's good to see them, really taking the bit between their teeth and racing hard when they're out there.
But the format was challenging. After 4 days of fleet racing, only the top 10 moved on to the knockout phase. When the first cut came, 2-time Star Sailors League finals winners Mark Mendelblatt and Brian Fatty were way out in front on points. But there were some big surprises behind. 5-time Olympic medalist and Volvo Ocean Race winner Torben Grael hadn't made the top 10. Neither had Freddie Loof and Bruno Prada, nor had Star World Champions Elvin Melby and Joshua Revkin. Yet some of the youngest and newest to the fleet had, as Philipp Bull and Ben Saxton qualified for the quarter-finals. As did Paul Goodison and his crew, Fritjof Kleen, who were also making a big impression on the fleet. From here, points didn't matter. Staying in the game did, as each race saw teams eliminated. The quarter-finals would trim the 8-boat fleet down to 6 for the semis, and from there, the finals would be a 4-boat race. The first casualties were Bruni and Colanino after jumping the gun and failing to return to restart. Their series was over. As it was for Saxton and Mitchell, who finished 7th. Now for the semi-final. There were 6. Here it was Kayard and Trinta, along with Bull and Coy, who dropped out of the running after a close race. The final was set. 4 teams, 3 medals, 1 race. Goodison and Kleen were last off the line at the start and were forced to break from the pack on the first leg of the race. But by the top mark, their different approach had paid off, but only just.
It could not be more exciting, could it? I mean, could he just manage to get in there? There's literally not even half a metre between them. It's incredible. It's going to be all on down this downwind leg.
And while Goodison and Clean held the lead for the next lap of the course, the final leg was a drag race to the finish.
It's all on at the finish. Who's it going to be? Robert Scheid sticks his bow forward. Paul Goodison attempting
Come on, Goody, little squeeze,
to
little
control.
squeeze.
Paul Goodison, he's bow forward.
Goodison yes.
Takes the final, and it was a
wow.
final finish.
Wow.
Paul Goodison,
wow.
Congratulations.
Wow.
A great defence right at the end.
Oh, it's incredible, the talent here. I remember as a young laser sailor, obviously, Robert was one of my heroes, being, I don't know, 7, 8 times laser world champion, and something I always aspired to and tried to beat, and to sail against these legends here, not only Robert, but also all the other star sailors. I remember Ian and Bart sailing against them, and I always looked up to the class thinking it was just full of these amazing, great sailors, and it's an honour to race against them, and I just feel super happy that we've managed to beat them this week.
Sailing's global rock stars had been pushed hard. Racing had gone down to the wire. And new champion of champions had been crowned. Coming up next, emotions run high in the Volvo Ocean Race. And why finishing first didn't mean winning. Welcome back. Still to come, why sparks flew when 2 of the biggest and fastest racing machines in the world locked horns. But first, 4 weeks of extremes for the Volvo Ocean Race pushed crews to the limits. From a high-speed, relentless blast through the freezing wastes of the Southern Ocean, to a crawl in the oppressive heat of the windless Pacific doldrums, and then drama. 2 legs and 4 weeks of extremes lay ahead for the Volvo Ocean Race teams, where the results told part of the tale. From the familiar front runners dominating the racing in leg 3, to a complete shake-up on leg 4 from Melbourne to Hong Kong, where the fleet turned inside out. Physically and mentally, the last month has been testing.
It was a really, really tough leg, an absolute classic Southern Ocean, just brutal, relentless Southern Ocean weather.
The action started with the 6,500-mile Southern Ocean leg from Cape Town to Melbourne. The shortest route meant going as far south as possible. But with an exclusion zone set by the race committee to keep the fleet away from the ice, the deep south was out of bounds. The result? A jibing match along the edge of the invisible touchline. But in winds of 30 to 50 knots, more manoeuvres meant more risk. Axo Noble was the first to trip up in a big way after a crash jibe left them with a damaged mast. As they throttled back to make repairs, they hemorrhaged miles to their competitors.
The worst part is we've pulled the track off the back of the mast. So the plan is hopefully get the track glued back on or screwed back on. Then we've got to repair some battens, some mainsail. We're trying to keep the boat moving as fast as possible now, but you know, we only just got a jib up. Still probably doing 16 knots in 45 knots of wind.
The breezy and brutal conditions were also taking their toll on the crew. Whether they were being battered by the tons of water firing through the cockpit, or had been thrown around the boat with the violent motion, there were injuries aplenty. Among those to suffer badly was Team Brunel's Annie Lush, who suffered broken bones in her foot and back. Meanwhile, leading the charge, Mapfre and Dongfeng continued their familiar duel at the front of the fleet. And when Mapfre broke free to head north for the finish, it was clear they'd timed their turn to perfection. Capitalizing on a better wind direction, they extended their newly gained, narrow lead on Dongfeng. 3 days later, Mapfre took the leg win, their second of the race so far.
Well, super physical leg this one. It's been cold, it's been wavy and windy. You know, we have a very strong crew, technically and physically as well. And very happy, no injuries. Everyone very happy.
Dongfeng, who had limped across the line with a damaged keel canting mechanism, held on to second, while Vestas 11th Hour Racing took third. As the bulk of the fleet prepared for the next leg, AkzoNobel was still working their way to the finish. Their crash had been costly. Their Christmas would be at sea. The stopover was short, just 1 week, and the fleet was off once again, this time to Hong Kong. Last in, but first out for leg 4, AkzoNobel hugged the Australian coast to lead the charge north. But leading didn't last long for anybody. By the Solomon Islands, Dongfeng was leading the pack, guided by the team's stand-in navigator and former Volvo Ocean Race winner, Frank Camas. But even their lead was short-lived, as the back of the fleet barreled into the front and parked up. Only half the fleet was happy.
The door, almost the boat come back, so it's a new start again. Since 2 hours, we lost all our advantage. That's sometimes very unfair, but we have to cross this room and hope that we will be the first one to exit.
The race was restarting in the doldrums. Scorching temperatures, torrential rain, and spectacular thunderstorms added to the tension. As the breeze began to build, Vestas 11th Hour were first to break free. Could they dare to hope?
All the new breeze is in the north, so if you get out into that wind first, and this guy gets the wind and he starts speeding off, and this guy's still doing 4 knots when this guy's doing 10, you can see it extends.
Yet further to the south, treading their own path, David Witt's son Hung Kai Scallywag had stolen a march on the fleet and taken the lead. First into the trade winds and steaming ahead, but they were about to trip up. During a routine sail change, crew member Alex Goff fell overboard.
Goey went out on the outrigger. I think the sheet was tangled on the end of it, but in those situations you should, one, either be tethered on, or two, at a minimum tell the driver what you're doing so he knows. They didn't do either of those. Went out on the other outrigger I was driving, and we went off a big sea. Just picked the back up and just threw him off like off a horse.
Quick reactions by the crew had him back aboard in 7 minutes. But it had shaken the crew.
4 knots wind and black, you're dead, okay? Only reason we found you is you put your arm in the air, okay?
After their scare, Scallywag was back underway in the best breeze as they led the field to take their first leg victory in their home port of Hong Kong. The script couldn't have been written better.
It's a little bit overwhelming, to be honest. I got interviewed on the boat, and I said, I had to pretty much just give everything up in my sailing career ever if I could pull this off, because it's not just me. It's just going to mean so much to so many people. So it's just fantastic, mate.
But shortly afterwards, the mood in Hong Kong was subdued, following the news that Vestas 11th Hour Racing had been involved in a collision with a fishing boat 30 miles from the finish. A collision that had resulted in a fatality of one of the 10 fishermen aboard. A tragic end to 4 tough and challenging weeks. As the clock counted down to the start of the annual Rolex Sydney to Hobart race, the weather was the dockside gossip. Strong but manageable northerly winds were forecast to propel the fleet south to Tasmania. This, the experts said, could be a record-breaking year. Just as last year's had been after Anthony Bell's Perpetual Loyal crossed the finish line in Hobart to take almost 5 hours off the previous record. But this year was different.
It's the first time I've seen such consistently strong winds over the course, from Sydney down to Storm Bay. Rarely do you get it across Storm Bay and up the river, the same sort of pattern. But it's got everything going for it for an exciting race. It's just the wind strength, the sea state and everything else.
But not even the experts had anticipated the dramatic and controversial outcome of this race. Starting on Boxing Day, the needle match between two of the monster Supermaxis kicked off within minutes. As the pair worked their way out of Sydney's busy harbour, Wild Oats tacked in front of Comanche, who had right of way. It was a classic defensive move by Wild Oats and a close call. But was it too close? Comanche claimed it was and protested. But there was still 600 miles to go. Out into open water, the light winds inside the harbour started to build, as did the pressure. It was Comanche that took the early lead, scorching ahead and revelling in the downwind conditions. But as Tasmania approached, the breeze dropped and Wild Oats started to gain. And by the time the pair turned into the notorious River Derwent as they made their final push for the finish, the breeze shut down and the big guns parked up. The record had looked like it would be broken, but now time was running out. Comanche still had the edge, but Wild Oats hadn't given up. And when the breeze did arrive, it was Wild Oats that got going first, to take line honours and set a new Sydney-Hobart record. Except she hadn't. As the crew celebrated their win, their competitors were preparing their protest. Just hours after Comanche hit the dock, the jury called the teams to give evidence. The case centred on whether Comanche, who was on starboard and had right of way, was forced to alter course as a result of Wild Oats' actions.
The decision, Wild Oats 11, is in lieu of a disqualification, penalised a time penalty of 1 hour to be added to her elapsed time in accordance with SI 20.1b and SI 22.1. Thank you.
Wild Oats had lost, giving Comanche the line honours win, along with the new course record.
I'm thrilled to be installed as the line honours winner. It's something we worked so hard for and something we thought we were a very good chance to do. It's of course always a bit of a shame that it may happen in these circumstances.
Meanwhile, back on the racecourse, conditions had favoured the mid-sized boats who had romped down to Hobart. The fastest in this field was the TP52 Ichiban, skippered by Matt Allen, who took the overall win on corrected time.
I think winning the race the first time in '83 was a huge moment, but I've always had this dream to win it as the skipper, and that dream is now fulfilled. It's great.
Competition and controversy. This year's Rolex Sydney-Hobart race had both. Next month, the Volvo fleet head back down south, and how inflatable sails might be the future.